everybody, the Seattle Ring Hunter here. Thanks for joining me today. Just want to go ahead and give a little bit of an update on my journey, my recent journey here. As you guys are aware, I'm diving the Dive Talk Go, and I elected to go ahead and implement the Symbios wireless system, computer system. So with that being said, here is what looks like a tank pod, but this is actually the wireless O2 sensor pod that goes inside of the canister of the Dive Talk Go. I have put that in there and have come up with a configuration that actually works. So using that system, the two computers, because we'd like to have one for redundancy, I'm currently using the HUD and what I refer to as the wrist set, handset computer. So these are two great computers, and they've been working very well. What I want to share more about is the mask options and the mask mounting more specifically. So on this mask, and I have RX prescription lenses in there, as you can see. That's through Prescription Dive Mask down in La Mesa, California with Linda. She's been there for years with her team, and she's been doing a fabulous job. Coming up on somewhere around 9 years of diving, and early on my mask have been with prescription glasses when I started to have to wear prescriptions. So that has been really nice. It's got a bifocal in there as well. As you may or may not be able to see that on the video here, but anyway, they are glued in and very nice. It's just the same process of getting lenses built for your glasses, and they've glued them in to the dive mask specifically. There's a lot of questions being asked on that process of where you want the bifocal to be and where your center of your eye, your pupils are. You mark that lens and they get it precisely positioned for you, customized. So I appreciate that, but more so to the Halcyon Omnis dive mask is basically a low profile mask. A lot of CCR divers tend to, I believe, one of the things that has been stated is that it's a little less volume, maybe a little better for your buoyancy. I'm not exactly sure if it makes all that much difference if you wear a full-size face mask versus a low profile one, and maybe it's just a cutesy little thing to say, or it sounds good so people say it. I'm going to share with my experience here that the real reality is more about getting a mask that fits your face appropriately with the skirt and fitting the format of your face. That is probably the most highest priority, because if you CCR diving, a lot of us have learned that we can exhaust through exhaling through our nose, and it will let gas slip out of the skirt. And sometimes if you feel like the mask is not fully fitting correctly and you have to take your hands and reposition it onto your face a little bit each time, or you're constantly fussing with it, that is not optimized configuration for you. I think you would probably be better off to find whatever mask it's going to be that has the best fit for your face first and foremost. And if it happens to be low volume and smaller and frameless, cool, you're with the latest trend. If it has to be more of a traditional frame mask and high standard volume, then you're still going to be fine. And that's what a lot of this is around that. And my adventure in the last several months here with the Symbios HUD. Now I have experience, limited I must say, but enough to know that I was messing around with the Nerd 2. Yes. So with the Nerd 2 being a bit of a larger screen, and originally on the breathing loop at distance, you can actually see that screen from a distance quite easily. The problem was when it's on the breathing loop is it moves up and down a little bit, so you have to kind of sometimes adjust it, just constantly readjusting it, or getting that breathing loop just right to be able to read it when you need to see it. And it's not a fixed location to the eye. There is some movement and breathing loops on some systems. They actually put weights on them because they get floaty and they can move around a bit. So that's just part of the nature. But the Nerd 2, you could actually see from a distance, there's a larger formatted screen and it was designed and built to be seen at a distance. Now, the Symbios HUD has a much smaller viewpoint, and you have to get it, as you can see here, it's pretty close to the lens compared to being further out. It was designed to be mounted on a mask, and that was the design intent, and they achieved that and did a very good job of it. Now, some of the things that I fell into, because I tried this mask and it fit pretty well. I went and dove it a few times, and it's not a perfect fit for my face, unfortunately. So that led me to want to consider some other options. But initially, when I first got this mask, there is a basic clip system that can go on. This is what the clip portion looks like, and it would just go around like a frame mask, and it would have the similar ball mount, dog bone or little ball mount here, clamps. Well, I had a little bit of an issue myself personally. Other divers may have found a way to get around it, or they're just putting up with it and not saying too much. But the freedom of movement on just one single clamp system here, and this is not the Halcyon one. The Halcyon one was right here. They did a wonderful job on the construction of this, and it was very secure to the mask because there's a pin, as you can see here, that holds in the mask strap, and you pop the pin out, push the pin out with a pin pusher, and then you can install this piece, and it actually clips in, and it's custom designed, and I prefer to have it over my right eye. So as you can see here, well, their system, they actually use, so, and you'll see here in a moment, instead of the 3D printed carbon 3D printed vice jaws, clamp jaws, they actually use some I believe it's aluminum plates with some holes drilled into it, doing the same sort of thing. And I'll show you that because it's actually installed on another application over here, just to my right. But at any rate, we'll get to that in a moment. I was not able to get this thing exactly where I wanted it, and the whole thing that I'm kind of referring to is, if anyone has any experience with the Halcyon Symbios HUD, when you look into it and you're trying to get it lined up perfectly, so when you take your eye and look at it, you want the top portion where the compass is, and down below where you typically have your tank pressure, and to be able to see both of those in focus. So that's the very top and the very lower. For most part though, when we're CCR diving, we're looking at our PO2 levels, and you got 3 values right across the center horizon of the screen. So it's always kind of like the focal point. It's not hard to dial that in, is what I'm saying. Well, the other thing too is that you want to be able to lock it in, so small movements like this here, it seems to be a little bit loose, and then you're constantly sitting there during the dive, you know, fussing with it to get it so you can read it as you need it. So there's a few things there. So I went online to see if I could find a better mounting system, because I just wasn't satisfied. So what comes with the HUD is the basic clip, can kind of be considered a universal clamp that you can kind of make do with on third-party masks, because not everyone's going to have a Halcyon dive mask. They realize that. We all realize that. They still want people to be able to utilize the computer system, the HUD. So they have this kind of basic clamp, and as you can see, it's very small, but it can be effective in some situations, and some divers are perfectly fine with it, and they're moving on with it, and that's great for them. They provide several different little C-clips that go around this portion here, and you got 3 positions, 1, 2, and 3 on the HUD, so you can kind of move it in and out and get it precisely orientated to your liking. I went online and found a company, and they are Scubalab. Scubalab is some dive enthusiasts that have gotten really heavy into some really awesome carbon fiber 3D printing applications, and they're creating a lot of great stuff out of Korea. And a lot of their products you will be able to find on eBay, or you can go to their website. That's Scubalabs I believe it's scubalabs.co.kr for Korea. And you can see some of their offerings there, and some of the other offerings that aren't listed on their actual website will be found on the eBay. So if you were to probably type in Scubalab and Symbios on eBay, you'll see a bunch of their listings. And Jamie is the person I've been in contact with over there. Absolutely amazing, very responsive, and right on top of their design capabilities. Now, this is what they came up with. Here's another portion of what's on here. So the clip by Halcyon is made for quick removal, and you got to be careful if you put any pressure on there, it could come off, but it stayed on for all of my dives so far, which are very limited with this mask. But at any rate, it got a receiving system, so it kind of slots over. As you can see the piece there already, and they've used some stainless steel hardware to fastener screws to hold that in there, and the clamp system is absolutely amazing. They made a couple of different clamp systems, and they came around and did some stuff. Well, this was working out, but I wasn't really excited about the fit. Nothing to do with the Halcyon dive mask. I'm sure a lot of people are very excited about it when it fits their face. One thing about this mask is it comes in two different sizes. The Omnis and Omnius. I'm sorry, I'm murdering the pronunciation currently. But at any rate, you guys all know the latest one if you've looked into this. The larger one is quite large, and I believe myself to have a larger head for hat sizes, so I thought the large one, and I actually had to return it and order the, I guess, medium size. Maybe it's a large size, and then the other one's extra large. I'm not exactly sure. It's a bit confusing, so please do, if you can, get an opportunity to go to a dive shop, and just be aware that it may not be the largest one, may not be the appropriate fit for your face. Yeah, so just on that, it's a great mask. Nothing wrong with the mask at all. And they have the other mask strap that looks more like a motorcycle helmet or ski goggle mask strap. That other mask strap, I did try it. If you're into snorkel usage, you will not get a snorkel clip on the other mask strap, so you'll probably have to stay and revert to this one. But you can easily mitigate these two rubber bands on the back by putting one of those neoprene or whatever, keepers on the back, so you can slide it over your head easily. That was and I'll show that also on another application on a different mask over here. So that being said, for a long time standing, the best mask that I found since I started diving actually was the Tusa FreedomHD. I love that mask, and I really appreciated that mask for the fit that it provided. So there's no clip system that I was aware of outside of this basic clip system, and that wasn't really sufficient for what I was looking to do. So if we kind of move over here, I'll bring in an example. We'll go ahead and take, just so we can see it, get the HUD, pop that off of there. I reached out to Scuba Labs and explaining to them, because they've done a lot of custom applications for different things over the years, and they've done a really neat job. And so I took this mask here in my hands with an older prescription. This thing has been used a lot, and I kind of moved away from it, trying out different options. Paralens camera used to be mounted right on the strap here, and then they went out of business and out of life, and my battery started to die off. So I wanted to utilize a GoPro for some of my stuff, my activities underwater, and there's no GoPro mount. So then I went to another mask and mounted a GoPro to it and kind of did that for a while. But now I'm focused on having this attached. And so I sent this mask off, and they came up with an amazing solution. They came up with this whole, very well customized. The back plate here absolutely goes over and does not impede or it doesn't hamper or get in the way of the articulation of the mass strap. So they absolutely, and it's actually contoured a little bit more. It's hard to see right now. I think if I grab the light here and underneath, I mean, they got it so it really holds really well. And like I said, it doesn't hamper or impede the mass strap. So that's really cool. It's all the latest and greatest, very strong and durable. There's some carbon in their printing media that they've used, using stainless steel screws. One of the small little nuances that I'll share with you on the hardware that Halcyon chose for whatever reason is a torque screw. So they're utilizing a T10. Some people refer to it as a star, but anyway, it's a torque. And, you know, you have to get that. They provide the little hand tool, but if you need anything to get a little bit more, you're trying to tighten it down for the Halcyon. Here we go. You got to have that T10 bit in your driver, or this little basic tool that doesn't always give you enough grip. And, you know, so anyway, that's what they did. Fortunately, they used the more standardized with the Scubalab. They use a 2.5 millimeter hex Allen. I've got a low pro. They provide that, of course, like any other Allen key, dime a dozen. This is one of their components here, Scubalab, and I found this is a neat tool. This is Anex, A-N-E-X. It's a Japanese company, and they do a lot of slim, low-profile tools. You find them on Amazon, and they have a whole set of these on a ring, and I just pulled this one off because it's really nice for low-profile access, and you can really get in there and give it a little snug as you need to without breaking anything. They used the strongest materials they could. I was told Jamie has been very responsive, and they provided this so I can get in there in a tight area, like, you know, I can tighten up the fasteners. So that was really cool. And then if we get this clipped in here, one of the things they did do is there we go. They added a second clamp system so we can get a little bit more articulation instead of just one. It looks a little bit bulky and such looking at it from here, but it's absolutely amazing because it gets it exactly where it needs to be, and you can actually see everything. So this is the long-standing Tusa FreedomHD. I love this mask because of the skirt. Just fits to my face really well the first time, and I don't really have to mess with it at all. And it's a little bit larger profile, of course, but it's going to probably be utilized as my final solution for this for quite some time. I'm quite sure of it. One of the other things I'm going to reach out to them to see if they can do, because I like to run with a GoPro, is to see if they can add another one of their customized mounting systems for a GoPro right over the top. So that'll be the next edition. A lot of stuff on that going on there, but it'll all be secure to the mask, and I think I will be very excited if I can get that solution. And so when I reached out to them, they provided this. Their clamps from Scubalab are these 3D printed, same thing we have going on over here. Similar, you know, they redesigned it the best they could, but not the problem. I wouldn't say it's a problem. I say it's very usable and it's absolutely fine. It just doesn't, even when I get with a regular wrench and tighten the clamp, because it's 3D printed material, and the ball joint tends to want to, and you know, the ball joint's here and here, so you got 2 points of articulation and movement, and it's really difficult to get it to lock in. I think there was two different mindsets. I think from Jamie and those guys, they were like, well, we don't want to put something in there that wears down or damages the ball from continued use. But I was of a different mindset from the beginning, that I wasn't looking for it to be I wanted to lock it into its position, tighten it, and leave it there for the duration, not to pull off the HUD, just to leave it. And to that point, very specifically, and I think it makes a little bit more sense if we illustrate this. One of the things I did do, because of, of course, everybody is a diver, basically has to go ahead and pack up their gear at some point, even for local dives, into the vehicle, and you don't want things to get damaged. So what I did is I put a lot of thought and energy and effort into this. I went to the container shop, the container store at the mall, which has a lot of food containers, and I found this box, but then it goes a little bit further than that. I wanted a kit that would have everything combined, so I took the original case for the Halcyon mask, the Omnius, and I took and seam ripped out the zipper, got rid of that, and I cut an access port hole there. And when you put the mask in here, it actually, because of the plastic here, it's almost like legs on both sides. It doesn't smash down the mask so much. So when it's in here, it's pretty sturdy and it's not putting any pressure, which is a great fit. And then the soft mask goes right over the top, just like that, just for a little extra added security. Or I put the bungee cord around it because I gotten rid of the zipper. So now I have that going on. Just had a little piece of foam just to kind of keep it over to so the computer now, the HUD is not touching anything. I can put the wrist set computer. They like to call it a handset, but it's not attached to my hand. It's a wrist set. And then we got our PO2 transmitter, a wireless transmitter, and some charge cables. Give it a little bit of breathability. I drilled some very carefully, had to put some holes in this plastic, and that was the setup. A really neat setup. Compact, throw it in with the gear, keeps things from getting smashed. And the whole point was that I could go ahead and just simply pull the mask out for a little bit of a more effective and efficient donning of gear. Put the mask on and just do a slight adjustment and good to go. Well, with the situation, a few times the screws were coming a little bit loose, and I got all the way up to spending all the time of getting ready and getting up to the shore, and then this thing got loose and it was flopping around, and I had to go back to the car. Oh, what a pain. Just to get a wrench, because I didn't have one on me, and fortunately I did have it in my Save a Dive kit. I had to tighten it up again, and there were some issues with that. The original way that they were, a lot of little details, of course, like with anything, but the original setup here, if I can find what I'm looking for, was like this here. They used it's kind of like this one here. They have a square nut on the back. There was nothing to lock it in place. I made a suggestion, and they were very open-minded to it over at Scubalab, Jamie, and I said, hey, can you maybe put some nylock nuts in there to give it a little bit of something to hold the screw so it doesn't come loose. And so then they incorporated a nylock on the back side of there. As an example, here we go. This screw's not the one that they were using. It wasn't sticking out that far, but they put nylock on the back side. And then I'll show you how that had developed into even more after that fact. Let me go ahead and clear the table here, and we're going to set this mask aside. Even though this little kit came together and everything was working out really neat as far as the kit for portability, we can put that in there. And then I have the computer in there as well. I'm going to leave the computer out. It's no longer going to be kitted up in this way, to be honest. I'm going to have to come up with another box, potentially, for my latest solution we can just put that there for now. So this is kind of going to be warehoused, unfortunately, but warehoused a little bit. Putting that aside, bringing in the Tusa FreedomHD and what I believe to be probably my go-to now. I just pull all this apart, so I got to rearrange it all, but it basically kind of fits in there like that. I wasn't satisfied completely with how loose it was moving, but when I got it locked in, I went back and I borrowed, I stole the metal clamp system from the Halcyon kit and moved them over to the Scubalab 3D printed mounting system. I originally had the torque screws, the T10 torque head fasteners in here, along with the 2.5 millimeter Allen. That means 2 wrenches, and that wasn't going to be sufficient, so I pulled those out and put in the Scubalab provided, so I could stick with just the one Allen key wrench to do all the fasteners on this system. It stuck out a little bit the back end a little bit, and that was one of my one of my thoughts along the way that I kind of shared with Scubalabs. This plate from Halcyon is threaded, so the screw would just go through and thread into it, and that's all they were doing. But I've taken the opportunity to put the nylock on the backside as a jam nut, so once this gets tightened up, I can additionally lock it without having to use blue Loctite, which would be a mess. So I can tighten it up, do all this at the bench, and get it pretty much snugged up pretty tight and just leave it there. It's got a little bit of movement, but it's got a lot more resistance than it ever had with just a 3D printed clamp. So there's a lot going on here, a lot of details, but the real reality is that now it's very consistent, and I believe on my next dives with this, because this just got put together, I'm going to be very happy and I'm not going to have to be messing with it so much. And so to the fact that this is an older prescription, we now bring in, of course, this is just an ongoing progression of the way things go until you get exactly what you want. You don't know a lot of times until you've gone through a few trials along the way. So I'm going to take and have this brand new fresh FreedomHD, and I like where the bifocals are, so I just traced it out, so when I send it in, it'll be easy for the technicians down there at Dive Mask to be able to put that pretty much in the same spot for my bifocal area, because I already know how this mounting system is going to fit. So, and this is here once again, everybody, a lot of people are aware of these. So I got this on the back side of it for the strap, and so it's going to be nice, just slip it over the back of the head, and that's going to be really nice. I also retain, because of the type of style of diving I do, a lot of times, sometimes I do quite a bit of a swim out with my dive scooter, and to save gas when I'm on the surface with pulling around with the dive scooter, I tend to like to use a snorkel. It just works well for me, and I'm saving my breathing gas for the dive. There's no need to waste it with a regulator in the mouth when I've got a ways to go. Sometimes my shore access or entry point to the places I go for lost item recovery, so a lot of the diving I do. So I'm absolutely going to appreciate, I don't have the clip on here right now, but I can put that clip over the rubber piece here, and it'll be very nice to have that. This is coming together quite well so far, and I'm glad, because it's pretty difficult to get a very specific mounting system that's going to work for you, and it takes quite a bit of effort. And, let's just tear it all up here. It takes quite a bit of effort to get everything where it needs to be. So Jamie over at Scuba Labs was gracious enough and kind enough to include some extra goodies into the box. He provided, and this is something they do sell, a customized bumper guard for the wrist computer. Right there. He put my name in it. It's actually printed in there during the printing process. TPU, it's kind of like a nylon feel to it. Base is kind of stretchy. It takes the impact really well. That'll put some extra protection around the computer there for some longer survivability. And if it gets tore up at some point and looks really crappy, you can always do a refresh and get another one from them. Potentially buy one and slap it on there and be fresh again. But that's kind of nice. And then he's also they've also developed one, as you can see right here, for the actual HUD, and that's also personalized. So when I was online looking, my eyes caught the attention of our friend Henry, Senior Scuba. He also, I noticed he had the Freedom HD, because I noticed he had the Symbios HUD, and I looked at the mask and I'm like, I know that mask, and I saw one of the frames and I'm like, yep, he's got the HD, Freedom HD. So I reached out to him and just kind of said, hey, I noticed you got the Freedom HD dive mask. I've been basically for like almost 7 years solid, I've appreciated this mask because of the fine fit that it provided for my face. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty much the only mask that fit him really well. So I said, well, that's cool. He kind of made a mental check of that and kind of mentioned it that to Scuba Labs when he was developing this mount system. I was like, yeah, I know another diver that actually runs the Symbios HUD and has a Symbios CCR. Yeah, you never know. He may or may not be interested. He might be fine with his current solution, but you know, there be a few other divers because this was a pretty popular mask at the time. And so, you know, I think they just love the challenge of being able to make options with their 3D creativity, and you know, making these different mounts is, you know, it's a challenge, and they get through one and they can put it up and sell it down the road. So that was an exciting thing. So what he did as well, he put in the box a little something that we're going to pass on to Henry, are these two pieces here. This is for the bailout valve, as it says right here, ADV BOV opener. So right on the middle of the Symbios CCR, chest mounted CCR front mount, there's a knob, a switch actually, for bailout. And on the back side you can see that there's these pins, and that can engage, so for when they need to do maintenance or open up that switching system, this can be placed on there and it can be used as a wrench. But anyway, Henry, we got this one here. This is actually from Scuba Labs, from Jamie. He's a great guy. And then during normal operation, if you choose to do so, he actually made you a beauty ring with your name and the Senior Scuba Tech Group, Henry Castellanos, and there it is. That can fit on there during normal operation if you choose to do so. So we'll pop those in the mail and get them over to you. You'll definitely find some use for this at some point in time, I'm sure, if you need to access and do a little bit of maintenance or whatever you need to do with that. So we'll get those in the mail to you, and at some point, if you decide that you want to go with this mounting system, you definitely can do so. It will come with these clips on it, but you can switch them out as necessary if you feel you want to. Copy what I've done here, and I believe exactly what it's doing is because these are the holes that have been drilled here, a little sharp, and when you compress this clamp, it actually kind of bites in a little bit. But this is really durable carbon media, 3D printed, and it really bites into it a bit, and it holds its position really well. It makes it pretty stiff. I mean, this lower one here, it's not moving. And the other one, you could just push it with your finger when it's like with this here, because it's pretty slick. And if you look at the nesting spot in there, it's just kind of a dimple, like on a golf ball. So that's kind of how that works. That's where I've gotten to at this point. Really excited about this. Looking forward to putting in lots of hours of dive time on this. and it's going to be an amazing opportunity to be able, I mean, it's just going to be very nice. I'm really excited about it, that I get to go back to the mask that I really appreciated. The only thing that's going to finish this off, as I mentioned earlier, is I'm going to see, they've done other 3D printed mounting systems for the GoPro. So I fully believe that it's well within their grasp and scope for Scubalab to make a 3D mounted print mount for the GoPro right on top of here, so it can clamp. It might be a similar clamping system, 2-piece, where they get it to clamp up here, and then you put the screw through it, the whole, you know, the little, I think it's like 3 little pieces that come up, and you put the screw through it, and then you got your GoPro in the waterproof case. That should be fun. I'm not going down to crazy depths at this point anytime soon, so the standard GoPro cases will work perfectly fine. I'm really sad, like a lot of other divers are, that the Parallax didn't last, and it's no longer available. Any of the ones that some of the divers, like Wreck Diver, got some old stock he bought from someone that still had some laying around. The only problem is that at some point those, unfortunately, the batteries on the inside are going to start to degrade, and then he's going to have to find somebody that's technically capable of opening up those dive cameras and getting fresh batteries put into them to keep them running. Hopefully they can do that to some degree. I'm not exactly sure, depending on what model of the Parallax dive camera they got. I think some of them are a little bit easier to get opened up than others, but it's all internal, and it takes quite a bit of detailed effort to do that. So I am not going down that road so much, and I'm just going to stick with the GoPro mounted on top. That's where I'm at now. So at any rate, really excited about this. I need to get the new mask shipped out to get the RX lenses installed, and then this mask here will probably potentially have to get shipped back to, it was a bit of an afterthought. I should have kind of mentioned it while it was already over there, because this already went to Jamie at Scuba Labs, so he could custom build this whole thing here. And yeah, that's where we're at. So that's an exciting look at what it looks a little bit. And the other thing I'll say too, it may from a glance like, oh my gosh, look at all this hardware, all this clampage down here in this corner. It is pretty streamlined, and when you look through the mask, you don't even see it out of the peripheral vision. It doesn't catch my attention at all that I've got clamps and stuff over here. It's not bothering my peripheral vision, and getting the HUD position just right. And I can still look forward, so still got good visibility out of the mask. This is a larger mask for sure. There's no question about that. It fits my face really well. That's what I got to say. And I'm going to appreciate it a lot more too, because of venting through the mask, through the nose. I can blow and vent out of this mask and not have too much trouble with the fit. This skirt just is really nice on my face. May not be on yours, or it might be really good on yours. It's just, you know, it's one of those things. When you find something that works, then you got to try to make all the other subsystems that go onto that. You got to get them created, or you got to make them work, or figure out a way to, you know, get around it, to get the points that you feel are important to your dive configuration. So thanks for your time. We'll keep you updated on how this goes, and maybe down the road a little bit later, I'll show if I can get GoPro mount included on here, what that all looks like, and snorkel, GoPro mount, metal detector, headphones over the head. A lot going on, but there's a lot of other things too about being able to, in an emergency situation now, to be able to easily remove these items without them hanging up and being a problem or causing more issues. The mask can come on and off quite easily with those components on there. I mean, let's face it, we got people with full face masks with a lot more drama going on a lot larger. They're not doing that so much with CCR diving, but there is those divers that have those full face masks and a lot of stuff mounted, lights and all sorts of goodies. So, and they have to have the same ability to be able to pull them off in a hurry and put on their alternative mask or go to their alternative air source as needed. So those are the thoughts that are also in the back of my mind to make sure that this stuff is set. And the biggest thing though, really, honestly, the biggest thing for me is that this system has to be able to be locked in and tight, because it will be an absolute disappointment, not in the dive so much necessarily, because I'm running a redundant dive computer and I need to look at my wrist like you traditionally would to see the PO2. It's just, if these linkages were to come loose, like some of the other options that we've tried, and I've noticed if they come loose and this thing just flops down and it's flopping all over the place, I'm not necessarily going to be pulling out a wrench during a dive and tighten this thing up, although that has crossed my mind that I would find like an Allen wrench and go take a torch and bend the end and make a loop on it so I could clip it and tie it off and not lose it, and see how long it lasts in salt water and fresh water before it gets all corroded out. But to have that, to be able to give it a little bit of a snug up while in the middle of a dive, it can be done. It wouldn't be the most exciting thing to have to do, but I'm glad that I got to a point now where this is very secure, and I think anyone else that's messed with these clamps and mounting systems they kind of understand where I'm coming from, and I've just taken it as far as I can, and I've come to this point here where this is absolutely a bomb-proof mounting system in here. This is just amazing. Everything is working as intended, and I'm loving it already. And I haven't even dove this yet, but I've test fitted this enough times to know that the focal point, the view from my eyes to this HUD are now optimized, and I can cinch them down tight. So there it is. If anyone else gets any advantage or use or ideas out of this, that's great. Just love to share kind of what I'm doing, these little fine details. They're exciting. It's kind of a challenge, and now to come up with something that's actually going to work, it's pretty exciting as well. This looks like a lot for people that don't have experience with a HUD. You look at this at first glance, you're like, oh my God, that mask might be heavy and this and that, and they're trying to formulate an opinion. Do I want to spend that much money and switch over? I'm going to tell you, it's not even an issue as far as it's not heavy on the mask. And when you get a good clamping system or mounting system to hold the HUD to the proper point where you can actually see it clearly, it is an absolutely phenomenal system to go wireless. Even if you're just open circuit and then something you want to do, open circuit maybe not so much. Maybe you're just going to stick with the wrist-mounted computer. But some people may choose to go over and put something right up a heads-up display in front of their eye. But really, for the CCR diving, this is phenomenal. And I know some of the other divers that are out there that have been diving this system have a lot of similar thoughts potentially, from what I'm hearing. Yeah, cut the cable, cut the cord. It's pretty amazing too, because of the fact that if you have to bail out of a breathing loop on a CCR, you can spit that thing out and you're not losing your HUD, because it would be on your breathing loop if you're using like a Nerd 2, for example, that's mounted to the actual breathing loop, and you go for your alternate air source, that breathing loop goes down and you no longer have visibility to it. So what I'm trying to say is when Halcyon decided to make this system, and it might have been made slightly before they got involved, and then they've adapted it to their use, but when it was attached to the actual dive mask, it makes a lot of sense. And being wireless like that, it's quite easy to do that without a cable coming off of a dive mask going into the system for communications. So the wireless link on that is absolutely phenomenal. You can take the mask on and off at the end of the dive and before the dive, so donning and doffing has now become much more simpler. These are the points that are being passed out and shared with some of the other S7 at some point, if they with SUMP, if they decide to go ahead and go wireless and do the Symbios, I think a lot of divers will appreciate that. Having that wireless communications within the head of the sump would be pretty awesome too, because the whole point with over there with those guys is that they were, their whole design language, it came out of not so much to try to build a product like they share on their website, but it was, they had a desire to build something that was super streamlined and compact and easy to don and doff, and that was for their own personal use, and it turned into what it is now today, the S7, this CCR, side mount CCR. So if they go wireless at some point, I think they're going to find that it's going to gel right into their line of thinking, and they're going to really appreciate having that opportunity where they don't have a cable coming off of, they don't have to clutter their breathing loop or anything with cables coming off the arm and all this stuff, to be able to just basically literally just slap a computer on their wrist and put their dive mask on. It's that easy. I mentioned this before, but this is from NARCT at 90. I don't know if Halcyon's ever going to come out with a solution to be able to have bungees that are adjustable with quick buckles, quick disconnects, pinch clips. But yeah, that was an add-on from NARCT at 90. They make it so if you do get the Symbios arm set computer, you can add this piece at the bottom, and that's from NARCT at 90, and that is an absolutely amazing addition that really kind of solved that problem too, because just with a simple bungee cord, I'm not into it. You may choose to dive warm, choose to dive dry suit. You got different things going on, and be able to have that cinchability but still have the bungee-ness to it. The straps are way better than the bungee cord all day long, every day. So that's what a lot of people with the Shearwater are used to running this system here. They're darn near the same clips and everything that they use that like Shearwater's been using, so it's very familiar and very easy to put on. So that's where we are, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, and have a great day.